I think we are just discussing at a point where I think we have gone through a very tough phase because of the corona. But let me start with some of the good news that in the power sector, since 1st of July, we have started observing that we are not only just regaining what we were generating in March, but already we have started registering almost, in NTPC, we have started registering almost double-digit growth. And if you see as a country-wise, we are more or less almost at the pre-COVID kind of generation level. And for the power sector, I think everything really flows from what is the kind of the demand and how the sector will be growing. I'm sure that with the Atmanirbhar Bharat scheme, Make in India, the power demand will go on increasing at a faster pace. And as the demand grows, the cost of power will come down, the health of the DISCOM will be better. And that should be really giving impetus to the growth of the sector. So with these few remarks, let me request to put the PowerPoint presentation so that I can just run through, and later on we will have the question and answers. Next slide, please. Yeah. So if you just look at this one, where we stand today and where we want to go to in 2032. And one of the significant changes is going to be that we are going to have almost around 30% in the renewables. And a lot of work is going on at present on that. And you will be just finding it out that we have already, NEC is gone for some kind of new company, which is going to be 100% subsidiary. And we have got the approvals for that. So we will be just ramping up our renewables in that company primarily. Next slide, please. So in this one, you will just, if you go through, this is a kind of the strategy which is really giving this, how we'll start with the operational excellence, and we'll have to go on. Then we are working quite a lot on the ESG, but we will have to just share with each and every stakeholder that what is being done, and we go on improving on that. On the growth side, it's going to be organic and inorganic both. As of now, we are also running one of the bid for acquisition of some of the renewable assets. And exploiting the existing land bank. Just to share here that we are having different locations, around 45 locations at present, and we have to the tune of around 1 lakh acre land with us. So that will be giving us a lot of opportunities for the brownfield expansion, both for RE and if required for the coal. We don't want to really acquire any new greenfield land for the coal-based projects. And we will be just always striving for the most competitive debt. As of today, our cost of debt is much below 7%. So it's between 6 and 7, which is keep changing and month to month, but it is in that range. Renewables, as I said, it's going to remain focused, but more than that, there will be thrust on the hydrogen, and that too also green hydrogen. And going forward, we will see that how we can utilize green hydrogen and carbon capture so that we can go towards the some kind of chemical manufacturing in the power systems, because we have abundance of the carbon dioxide with us. So what is the growth drivers? Go to the next slide. So this is a huge capacity addition in the pipeline, which is already around 20 gigawatt, and push for the green energy, which is primarily solar and wind. For our existing generation, we are ramping up our coal production. And let me just add up here now itself that as of today, we don't foresee any problem as far as the coal supplies are concerned. Whether it is from the Coal India Limited or whether it is our own supply, I believe that it's not going to be any issue going forward. And there will be always some kind of opportunities for the acquisition. Go to the next slide, please. So in the operational excellence, what we are just focusing, I think that was also mentioned in the introduction, but I think flexible utilization of the coal and optimizing the cost of the coal at the power station, that has been one of the prime focus. And we are quite thankful to the ministry that we had been taking up many of the policy advocacy, and it has worked well. Ministry has taken in the right earnest, and we had been able to push for security constrained economic dispatch, which is helping to run the low cost power stations at the full load. And that is reducing the cost of generation. And in fact, that helps the distribution companies. On the reliability side, we have sound O&M practices, but still continuous improvement going on that. We have quite a good focus on the digital, and the team is working on the digitalization of the operations, which is going to improve the efficiency as well as the reliability. And on the sustainability side, there is a huge focus on how to reduce the water consumption and how to maximize the usage of the fly ash. We had been able to take it to almost 60%. Just to share here that what can be the usage of the fly ash. One of our, what we are trying to work out is we can utilize more than 80% of the total material of the fly ash to construct houses, which may not be multi-story, but the low-cost housing, it can really work like a wonder. Go to the next slide, please. So on the financials, if you are just coming, we are going to have the increased regulated equity as we are commissioning our new projects between today and next 3 to 4 years. The regulated equity is going to go up from 61,000 crore to 91,000 crores. The next point is quite interesting, that reducing the CWIP. This is the first time in the last many years that we had been able to now start seeing that the CWIP is coming down. And that is an indicator that we are commissioning the projects which were under construction and put to the kind of, till now it was under construction, so it was not capitalized and it was not generating revenue. So now the revenue generation is going to be much faster in this. Payment security, we already have the TPAs, and under Atmanirbhar Bharat, I believe that by end of this month, we should be able to get most of the payments from the states. 3 or 4 states have already opted. We have got the part payment, and the 2 or 3 states which have already applied with REC PFC, they are going to pay very soon. In addition to the regulated equity, what we are working on the non-regulated sector also, and that is primarily the renewables. On the rewarding the shareholders, we will go on finding out a fine balance between the dividend or the buybacks, whatever it works, and we will be constantly reviewing. And this all depends how is the cash flow from time to time, and we are quite aware of those issues. Next slide, please. On the ESG side, as I just mentioned, I think there is a renewed focus. And what we are working is increasing the ash utilization, as I mentioned earlier. Waste to energy, there is already 3 projects what we are taking up. Biomass co-firing, that should work like a double benefit. One is that we should be able to utilize biomass, which should be considered as a renewable power. And the other one is to reduce the pollution in the vicinity, and especially in the northern part of the country. Strong ethics and the highest level of the corporate governance. And we, as you will all be knowing, that we are quite committed towards the CSR activities, primarily around the power stations what we are having across the country. Incidentally, our all power stations are in the remote areas, and we keep doing lot of works which really help the community in all respects. Can we go to the next slide, please? So on the renewable energy, I think as you will be just seeing that as of today, we have around 1070 megawatt. There is another one, it's under implementation, means under construction at present, 2348 megawatt. The tender which are under process is around 2000 megawatt. And in addition to that, we have almost around 6000 odd megawatt for the kind of through the developer mode, wherein we will be signing the power purchase agreement and in turn we sell the power. And what is the new? The new one is that first time we had started entering into the competitive bidding process. And that was quite interesting. And we had been able to really just win some of the bids. Rather, most of the bids where we are participating. The CPSU schemes, which is particularly for the PSUs, we have already won around 1700 megawatt and much more is going to come. We are trying to have the strategy, something how to optimize the cost and expedite the process. So instead of going for the EPC, whether we are now trying to have the procurement of the items and try to see that we hire these services and try to complete the project in the minimum cost. Next slide, please. On the renewable energy, again, as I said, there is a different ways what we are working. This is ultra mega renewable energy park. So we have already signed and with the 2 of the states and another 2 or 3 states we are working on that. So this should be adding it to up to 15 gigawatt kind of thing with the different states. On the acquisition route, as of now, the tender is going on for acquisition of 1 gigawatt, but we should be looking at many more like that. Collaboration, I think this is going to be quite interesting, and this is really going towards beyond domestic market. And this will be in collaboration with the International Solar Alliance. We have already won 2 of the PMC contracts from Togo and from Mali. And there are few more in the pipeline. We believe that this has a scope of around 10 gigawatts. I think the another area what we have already explored, and there is quite a good potential, is the floating solar. And we have already demonstrated that in Kayamkulam, as of now, even a 100 megawatt plant is under construction at Ramgundam. And there will be many more on the wherever the water bodies are there. Go to the next slide, please. Yeah, I think if I just try to hurriedly just summarize that what we are today. Today we are in the primarily power generation in the conventional area. We have some very small business in consultancy. We have started with the renewables and we have already started with the coal mining. So going forward, what we'll have to do is we have to go on ramping up and we should start looking aggressively the renewables, the coal mining, we should be going up to almost around 100 million ton per annum. As of today, it is around 12 million ton. The distribution, what we are looking aggressively, and as of now, we are in search of a good CEO, which we are sourcing it from the industry. Green hydrogen. The another area of interest will be electric vehicle or the mobility. The another one is carbon capture and utilization and going for the some of the chemicals. As I just mentioned about the global presence, but primarily it will be either Gulf area or our neighborhood, where already in case of Bangladesh, our project is near completion as of today. That is coal-based, but we are looking at something on the hydro and the solar projects also in Myanmar and Nepal. Consultancy in the African countries as well as the investment, that will be also one of the promising one. Waste to energy, I think that is another area which is going to be quite good, both for ESG as well as I think it should be have a sizable kind of contribution. Our NVVNL is doing anyway power trading. So all in all, what we are trying to just looking at is that from the purely a coal-based power generator, how we can turn out to be a energy company, and that too also in energy company, we should be driving the transition. We should be playing a lead role in transition from the heavily carbon-based power generation to the renewable or the less carbon, and then try to see that how in the next 2 or 3 or 4 decades, how soon we will be able to really transit from the carbon-based to the non-carbon energy sources. Just to conclude here, that we are observing again at the cost of repetition, I'm just sharing again that we have already started recording double-digit growth starting from 1st of July. So this quarter, this already there are very good signs that the power demand is going up. And as some of the captive power plants will find it difficult because of the environment condition, whether it is FGD or whether it is NOx, and I believe that they will have to either invest in those or they will opt to take the power from the grid. So I can just mention here that going forward, we should be registering much higher growth rate than what we had been observing now. So thank you, and let's have then some of the question answers.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. I would now like to hand over the Q&A session to Mr. Aniket Mittal, Senior Power Analyst. Also request all participants to post questions in the Q&A box.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Firstly, for the insightful presentation. It indeed was very helpful for us and all the investors. So I'll probably start off on the renewables fund itself, because that seems to be the major focus area. Just 3 days back, we've also got the approval for forming our renewable subsidiary. So twofold question over here. So one is that how do you see the current competition intensity in the renewable space right now? And when do you think NTPC can increase its presence in terms of the competitive bids that are coming in over there? And the second fold is, when you are, let's say, trying to participate in this competitive bids, what sort of IRRs are you looking at?
Okay, good question. I think in one question you have already included most of the things in renewable space.
Yes.
First of all, as you know that as a country, we have set up the target for 175 gigawatt, and out of that there is 100 gigawatt for solar. And this is for by 2022. And further, it is already announced that we will be going towards the 450 gigawatt. So there is a lot of scope, and there is everything, and everyone can really participate into it. What we are doing, I think I did mention, but let me just try to explain. That we will be going for the larger solar parks, what is called UMREPP. And the difference between UMREPP and the earlier solar park is that we can develop the solar park and also invest, that we can own our own solar plants in that park. In the earlier case, the developer of the solar park and the solar power plant developers were totally different. the solar park developer was not allowed to invest in that. So this is primarily the first change. The another change is that this is going to be the size much bigger than what it used to be earlier. We have already got some consent from 2 states. This is Rajasthan and Maharashtra. And also this is the consent on the way from Gujarat. So that those UMREPP will be providing us enough opportunity to go in a large scale. And in that case, we will be in a position to optimize our cost and the delivered power of the cost. Now, coming back to IRR, we are not going to take up any project if we are not having the IRR less than our target value. And the target value is not less than the regulated equity returns. So it should be in all probability, these assets should be able to give you higher returns than the regulated business. The one of the strength what NTPC carries, that we are in a position to raise debt, which is comparatively cheaper, at least up to 200 basis points than most of our competitors. And in addition to that, we have a very highly trained manpower, which is be it engineering or be it a kind of operation maintenance. So we should be in a position to optimize. And when you are going for larger power plants, larger solar parks, the possibilities of the optimization is going to be much higher. So what I can say with confidence that the renewable returns should not be less than our regulated returns in any case. Thank you. Did I mention all the issues, or there is something left out in this?
No, so I think you addressed them pretty well. Yeah. In fact, sir, one of the things that investors have been asking is on the UMREPP itself. If you could just throw some light as to how the revenue model will be, because I think you'd be involved in the development of solar parks, right? And then do you plan to bid for projects also over there? What are the timelines on that? So just...
Yeah, the timelines are, as I said, in the 2 states it's already started. And even I think we expect that the Gujarat thing should be allocated to us in next 2 to 3 months. And then we should start looking at and working with the power grid, because the evacuation has to be arranged from there. The another possibility, which I have not mentioned till now, but I think just to add here, that we will be exploring some of the other opportunities in the solar parks, the UMREPP itself, whether we can go towards converting the cheaper renewable energy into hydrogen. So as far as the energy storage is concerned, we as company, our considered opinion is that hydrogen, green hydrogen, will be taking the much more space than the batteries as far as the grid is concerned.
Sure, sir. That is definitely something that I think you've highlighted again and again. So another thing to ponder upon is within the renewable market itself right now, we're actually seeing a variety of bids coming forth in terms of RTCs, in terms of hybrid projects. An interesting point is something that the RTC projects can give NTPC in terms of combining thermal with renewable. From that perspective, does it make sense for NTPC to even look at certain stress projects where it can possibly look to combine thermal and renewable?
Aniket, I think that you will be finding that we will be able to participate in any kind of the bids. So it's a matter of time. Not only we keep studying what is happening, but we actively participate in that what can be done. And I think the demand is the real solution. I think I had been telling this again and again, The best part is the demand, and then we can try to figure out what are the different products, how we can just think of. And RTC or otherwise, in fact, we have taken one decision to go for at least 1 gigawatt of solar plant, which we should not be entering into the power purchase agreement. And going forward, you may be in a position, in a short run, you may be able to have the higher returns than even the power purchase agreement. And maybe at the right time, you can enter into the long-term power purchase agreement. So we should not be really going by whatever it is today. We should be strategizing, and we should be really encompassing most of the possibilities. So be assured and rest assured that we will be taking all necessary steps.
Sure, sir. That is very interesting. So on the RTC front as well, just get a perspective on thermal. I think one of the broader points that investors do want to gauge is the sustainability of coal-based generation in India. So as per your thought process, how do you see coal-based generation in India panning out, in terms of its sustainability?
See, we will be requiring coal-based assets at least for next 2 to 3 decades. And we will have to make it more environment friendly. So the cost is going to be going up rather than coming down. What has to be done? We should try to optimize. We should try to bring more and more efficiency into the operations. And if we can optimize the cost of the fuel, that is the basically landed price of coal in the heating value terms, not in the per ton of coal, because the calorific value keep changing from one source to the other source. And we should try to bring down the fuel cost as much as possible. In turn, the energy charges what we bill to the distribution companies. This RTC and other things are providing different kind of package wherein we can blend the solar power or the renewable power and the coal-based power and try to supply 24/7 to the distribution companies, which as a company we are anyway doing. And we have further, as per policy, which was approved by ministry about 1.5 years back, that we can blend the renewable energy in our coal-based generation in case the renewable energy charges are less than the fuel charges of the coal-based plant. So if the energy charges of a coal-based plants are 2.50 rupees, and if your renewable is available at, let us say, 2.20 rupees, so we can back down the coal-based generation and substitute that with the solar power. And you will find many more. And once the market is getting developed, there will be further opportunities to go on optimizing. And who can optimize more? The operator or the developer who is having only 1 or 2 projects, or the one who is having large number of fleet of all kinds, not only one type of.
So very true, very true. So actually sticking on the point that you've made on thermal itself, another point that investors do tend to raise is while we are making this foray into renewables, a large part of our portfolio is still or would be still coal dominated. So from an ESG perspective, are there certain initiatives that we're trying to take in terms of improving our reporting, in terms of certain emissions targets that we want to set?
Good question. I think let me share here with you that in the last 4.5 years, we have not ordered any new plant for the coal-based. And we are trying to see that our all ongoing projects are completed and they come on stream. Going forward, we are quite conscious that as per the grid requirement, we should be in a position to start the project as soon as possible. So while we are discussing today, we are having 3 projects where we can start work in few months. And all these projects are either replacement or the greenfield or the brownfield, no greenfield project. So this is Singrauli, Lara, and Talcher. So in case there is a demand is going to go up and we have to hurriedly ramp up, we can start the work on that project within few months. So all the developmental activities are more or less complete. We are not starting the work looking at the real requirement. And that itself is a one very clear message that how focused we are on ESG side. I think we had been working on many of the issues, but probably not communicating that much. So one of the corrective measure what we have taken now is that we should be really coming out of the sustainability report, which we have started last year, and this will be a regular feature. And every interaction with all the stakeholders, we should be in a position to communicate that. And in the last board meeting, we had already constituted a board level committee for ESG, which will be reviewing constantly how we are improving on that. On the renewable front, as I said, if we are able to, when we are ramping up this generation on the renewable side, we should be able to bring down the CO2 emission from almost around at present 920 or 915 gram per unit to approximately 700 to 720 kind of thing in the next 5 to 6 years, which is quite a sizable jump on that. I think apart from that, as I mentioned, let me just share here again, as I said, many things that when the fly ash is being utilized by these cement companies, they can mix it up to 35%. I think that should also be taken as a contribution from the thermal power plant, because they are reducing their input from the fuel side when they are blending the fly ash with that. And that is something what we have utilized, but they claim that. So this is coming out of the lot of analysis that what we are doing and how we are, whether it is the real efficiency related issues or it's a really articulation related issues. So one side is that we'll have to excel in the operation. The other side is we'll have to communicate. And obviously the third part is go on improving whatever it comes, be on the water side, be on the emission sides. And on the social side, I think as a CSR and the other things, if you just look at the kind of the activities and how much contribution the company like NTPC really makes, is quite a sizable. And we have to go on doing that much more.
Sure, sir. So like you pointed out on the reducing the emission front itself, I think one of the key points that is being talked about is the implementation of FGD. I think on that front also a couple of things have been raised where sort of clarity is something that investors are looking for. One is the timelines that we're looking at as to, for all our plants, when can we expect the FGD to come in? And secondly, based on your interaction, let's say with the DISCOMs and the regulators, there will be a certain increase in the costs that are bound to happen. And also there's some deliberation on whether the regulated, the CAPEX should be considered as a regulated equity or not. If you could just lay your thoughts on those.
Yeah, on the FGD side, we have already ordered most of the units. And as of today, I think out of around 60 gigawatt, we are left with only 2 gigawatt for ordering. And that too also we were very close, but on the recent good developments on the Make in India, other things. So we have just to wait for another about a month or so to make the changes commensurate to that policies. We were going ahead with Make in India anyway, and the import component was restricted. So our plans, apart from the impact of the COVID, we should be in a position to complete by the deadline of 2022. I think there may be something 1 month or 2 months here and there, but otherwise we are more or less on track. And this will be increasing the cost to the extent of around anywhere from 15 paise to 20 paise, 20 to 23 paise, depending on the size and depending on the configuration of that power plant. About the regulatory side, there has been a lot of discussion on this. We believe that the CERC will take a very balanced approach, and there will be a commensurate returns for the equity part. Anyway, that cost is going to be passed through, but on the equity part also there will be a balanced approach, and we should be able to get much higher than the cost of the debt. There is no reason not to believe that there will be no returns on that. If there is a equity contribution, there has to be some return on that.
Understand. So that is very good to hear.
I think this is what I just clarified about the last week when I had interacted with the investors. And I think it's a matter of a few weeks that it will be coming out. And
Sure.
in what form, how CERC is going to decide, that's up to them. But there will be the equity and the debt is going to be, in all probability, it is going to be treated differently. The
Sure.
risk of the equity will be respected, I think.
Great. That is very good to hear. So on the regulations front itself, there's a very interesting regulations that we're seeing pan out this year, or rather that have come into effect with us talking about higher renewables coming in front, with us talking about managing peaking power. Namely on two fronts. One is the segregation that's happening between peaking and non-peaking power, and the other is the ramping up and down of plants. If you could just throw some light, internally, if you've done an assessment as to how do you see this regulations impacting, and where do you think are we headed with CERC coming out with such norms?
Aniket, again, I think let's try to take the things into perspective. We all are here to meet the requirement of the grid. The larger question, what should be asked, the people who are contributing for the flexibility of the grid and the reliability of the grid, whether they should be compensated adequately. And this is what we keep taking up the point. So ramp up and ramp down is the necessity for the grid, because what we are doing is that we don't allow the renewables to back down, because that is a greener energy. And similarly, if there is a peak or the non-peak season, so at the end, I think we all are here as a constituent of the grid. We should make sure that the power is available on demand. So it's a reliability. And the next part is that those people who are contributing and those who are having the flexing of this generation, how they are compensated. And we keep taking up this subject also with the regulator. Again, let me share here, these all kind of requirements in the grid. We should be in a position to increase our returns rather than taking a hit on those.
Sure, so that's interesting. So coming on the return front itself, one is if you could just lay down your thoughts as to how do you see the situation within DISCOMs and our receivables panning out, because we had seen a bit of a stretch last year. I think the Atmanirbhar scheme has started flowing through. There's also been a relaxation working capital limit going on there. Based on your interactions,
I did mention that, but let me, I think, dwell a little more deeper into that. As of now, I just mentioned that 3 or 4 states we have already availed this Atmanirbhar under Atmanirbhar scheme from the loan from REC and PFC. They have already paid the first tranche. And as of today, we have almost the overdues of around 14,000 crores, which we believe that maybe in this month itself or latest by next month's mid, this should be squared off. And if you see that even the 14,000 crore, this turns out to be less than kind of the 2 months. So it's not something which is very, very huge. But yes, we always are on our toes to see that our receivables don't really pile up. We have the issues with only 2 or 3 states. And the good news to share here is that last week, the cabinet has already cleared and relaxed that condition. So that should be able to expedite the payment side.
That is very good to know. So then that should ideally imply some sort of return to shareholders in the form of a dividend or buyback, given that the money flows in. What is your thinking?
I think I did mention that also.
Sure. So we can expect that then coming through in some form.
As the situation emerges, we will keep taking the appropriate decision, and every investor should be really compensated or rewarded.
Understand. So trying to understand, let's say, just pondering a bit on that, from a longer term perspective. So if we look at our profile, most of our large thermal projects are now getting commissioned. Our CWIP is going down. Our capex would also probably be in a lower trajectory, notwithstanding the renewables that we're doing. From a longer term perspective, how do you look at, let's say, returning back to shareholders, in terms of dividends? Is there a dividends or buyback? Is there something that you've planned?
So let's not decide today itself.
Okay.
As the situation emerges, and we should not be just looking at only one option. It can be both. It can be a combination. It can be depending on the situation, what it comes. But it's quite clear that as the cash flow is really improving and there will be a lot of cash which will be generated, that has to be, the shareholders have to be really rewarded in that proportion.
Sure.
So either we will have to keep finding that we grow much faster in the renewable space, and we should be in a position that the grid is able to absorb that growth. Sooner we will be starting getting into some kind of the energy storage. So it's not only the dividend or buyback or the something else, but it has to be also growth, dividend, buyback, everything should be taken together.
Understood. So it's great that you actually pointed out something on investments in energy storage. An interesting point is we've recently even seen bids for, on the energy storage front come in. I think one is something that even we were trying in terms of a bid on a developer mode, rather, from a battery perspective in Andaman, if I believe to be correct. So how do you see
that is going to be very small.
Okay.
That is something 2 megawatt hour, which is very, very small.
Yeah, sure.
See, from the size of the company like ours, I think these are some kind of developmental activity which will keep going. So if I just share with you here, our Netra, which is R&D wing, they are today working on something which is very interesting for anyone, that we are trying to have the waste to energy in a different way. Whether we can convert the waste into fuel, and from that fuel also we can generate some energy, but at the same time we can have the solar energy, which is the greener one, and through that we can generate hydrogen, and along with the hydrogen there will be oxygen. So whether we can try out something which will be the oxy-firing in the boiler and keep sustaining this model, which is going to be only the external agency is going to be the solar power and the waste.
Understood.
So this is a similar one as far as Andaman is concerned. That was the first one, the 2 megawatt hour, because otherwise Andaman grid does not support the much bigger kind of installations.
Sure. I was just trying to understand, maybe from a medium-term perspective, how do you see costs on that front moving, let's say on the storage technology front?
See, I think it is coming down quite fast. And we are observing it very carefully. Where the energy storage as far as the grid is concerned, where it should be located. In all certainty, it has to be either in the power station or it has to be in the substations of the power grid. And obviously it will be power stations, which is the ideal location. And I was just mentioning again and again that going forward, if we can do the carbon capture and we can have the green hydrogen, then nobody will be start calling the power plants as a dirty, the coal-based plants as a dirty fuel. We should be in a position to really take care of the emission in some kind of utilization, rather than only it is polluting the environment.
Sure, sir. So that definitely is something that you would be watching out for.
So don't get surprised that down the line, about 5 to 6 years, that some of our coal-based plants will not only be the only coal-based plants, but it will be coal-based plants plus chemical plants.
Sure, sir. Any sort of investments that are planning on that front?
Yeah, we will be just taking up. The first thing is that we will have to really demonstrate, as I said, in our Netra, which we are doing, which will be almost around somewhere in between 100 to 200 crores of project. But that will be a kind of the developmental activities what we are doing.
Sure. So another very interesting facet where there seems to be a push by the government as well is on the pumped hydro storage front. Just wanted to know your thoughts as to, is this something that NTPC could also explore? And could this be, given the increased presence of renewables, could this be an added avenue?
We are studying those locations. As of today, I think there are 4 locations where our team is evaluating. Incidentally, this is a particular location specific, where you have the upper and lower pondage, where you can utilize that in a most efficient way. Because if you are taking it to a farther distance, then your pumping cost will be increasing and your conversion efficiency will be coming down. So I think as of today, our team is just exploring those locations. Let us see how we can go forward. One of the plant is in DVC area, which can be as high as 1500 megawatt, but the cost is coming out to be enormous. So let us see. I think this is starting in a smaller way, but it has a good potential. The good part is that it is going to be quite good source of good example of the energy storage, and that too also green. There is no pollution related issues in that.
Sure. So I think a couple questions that we have coming from investors also is on the ROE front that they want to understand. So how do you look at, let's say from a longer term perspective, the ROE profile moving forward? Because one narrative obviously is that as our CWIP goes down and as our projects commission, we should be able to move towards the regulated ROE profile. The other apprehension though that investors seem to have is with the interest rates falling down. Could there be a risk coming on the regulated ROE itself? Not probably now, but going forward, if you could just throw some light.
I think we should be concerned about our returns rather than the regulated ROE. And we should be looking for the avenues where we should be able to maintain the returns on our equity rather than only regulated equity. I just mentioned during this presentation that soon we should find a balance between the regulated equity and the unregulated equity. Another issue is that interest rates are benign at present. We should take the advantage of that. But at the same time, you cannot just look at, regulator has gone for the determination or the new regulations for 5 years based on the inputs from all stakeholders. And this was as recent as last year. So we should not have much apprehension on that side. But if the interest rates becomes much lower, then I think there may be a case. But let us see that how this will be in totality, it can be looked at. Okay. I don't think there is any kind of apprehension as of today to see that if the interest rates have come down by 200 basis points, then the equity is also going to be. It's not related with the MCLR or the PLR or something like repo rate or anything.
Sure. So 24, at least till 24, I think we are.
This is what my belief is. Let us see that how regulator is. I don't think there is any kind of movement which we are aware of at present.
Sure.
There may be a request from the DISCOM side always.
Right.
But no one can predict the future correctly.
Right.
Let us see what way this is going to be. If the demand is going to go up, let us see. I think this is what I think fourth I'm coming. If the demand keep increasing at what rate we are seeing from July 1st onwards, I think we will have to start investing heavily, even in the coal-based plants.
Sure.
Gone are the days when we were controlling the grid through the load shedding.
Right.
I don't think any state can afford to go for the load shedding for hours together.
Right. Actually, that is something. That's another question that I think people want to know about. Is a lot of power sector reforms that are being talked about at this current point in time, which should address some of the DISCOMs. I know it probably directly doesn't impact NTPC, but an overall, increase in demand or some of the later demand that's pending would obviously help the sector and the company itself. So, what are your thoughts in terms of implementation of some of these reforms? Do you see a push coming through?
I think we must appreciate the government that last year from July onwards. I think one of the measures which was taken up that if you don't have the LC, then the power will not be scheduled. So this kind of very, very affirmative, very strong decisions can be taken. And the next one is coming that there should not be a gratuitous load shedding. So those kind of measures once it comes, and otherwise also the awareness, and every house is now connected through Saubhagya schemes, and the power cuts or the load shedding will become very costly for any of these kind of stakeholder. And my belief is that we should be registering at least the double-digit growth over next 3 to 4 years at least. And that should be able to take care of most of the issues what we are talking about today, including to start with some of the coal-based projects, which I just said.
Sure. That is very interesting because, one of the things that we are also targeting is looking to enter the distribution space itself. Any opportunities that you are looking at right now?
We have studied 3 different geographical areas in the country, which I'm not sharing at present, which are those, but the different one. And we will be just looking at the right opportunity to start our first venture into distribution. As of now, we are looking forward to hire the CEO of the distribution business. And that too from the industry. So it's not limited to only the government on the deputation basis or something like that.
Sure.
So we have the intent to not only enter, but to make a difference. Once we are coming into that sector, we should be able to demonstrate that how with the best of the management practices, the technological improvement, how we can really demonstrate that we can really improve the distribution sector on that.
So any timelines on when do we plan to venture on this front?
I'm sure that before next year conclave.
All right. That's
but before that.
Sure, that's very helpful. So I think I'll just wrap this up in one last question that we have over here, and that's on the coal-based front. I think the question is pretty interesting. It talks about while we are looking to enter on the renewable front, we're also looking to expand on captive coal. Right? So how do you see that panning out? I mean, because on one hand, we see renewables coming up, and how do you see are we looking to actually develop more on the captive coal front as well? And what sort of targets do we have there?
No. I think as I just mentioned, we have the 10 coal mines put together, and their combined capacity is around 100 million ton per annum. Today last year we had almost around 12 million ton. So in next 3 to 4 years, we will have to reach around 70 to 80 million ton anyway. And that will be reducing our reliance on the Coal India subsidiaries. But at the same time, our generation is also increasing. So the other way to look at is that at least the incremental requirement we can meet from our internal sources. And that is giving us quite a good flexibility. Our Pakri Barwadih is able to give us the good flexibility to take the coal to any of the power station, and that has reduced the risk of under recovery on the of the fixed cost charges, which was prevalent almost 2 to 3 years back.
Understood. So, yes, I agree on that. Great, sir. Sir, thank you so much for your time. It's been, pleasure, getting to know from you your thoughts and the long-term strategy of the company. I'm sure we, as well as all the investors, found it extremely insightful. Thank you, sir, once again.
Thank you.